Hey everyone. Have you ever felt kind of heavy? Not like you're sick, but like the world is about to change. Like something big is coming, but no one knows what it is. That feeling isn't just you. It's spreading across an entire generation, Gen Z. And strangely, it mirrors how another generation felt, long before World War II started. Today, we're going to talk about why Gen Z's psychology feels so much like that before the war moment, and how, if we don't pay attention, we might repeat history in a new way. This isn't scary to watch. This is empowering to understand. So grab some water, get comfy, and let's go. First, who is Gen Z? Gen Z is the generation born roughly from the mid-90s to the early 2010s. So if you're a teenager or in your early 20s right now, you're probably in Gen Z. Gen Z is the first generation that grew up with the internet before they could tie their shoes, had a phone in their hand before they had a driver's license, saw the world on a screen, not just on a playground. They've lived through a global pandemic, serious climate worries, wars shown live on TikTok and Instagram, and a constant feeling that everything is kind of on fire. This isn't just a mood. This is shaping the way their minds work. Now, let's go back in time. Before there was Gen Z, there was something called the Greatest Generation. They were the kids who grew up in the 1920s and 1930s. They were born in peace, but they grew up under a dark cloud. They watched the Great Depression, families losing houses, farms, and jobs. Political chaos, leaders shouting at each other, strange new movements rising. The world moving toward war, even though everyone said they didn't want it. No one told them, you're going into war, but they felt it in the air. Their parents were scared. The news was worrying. The world felt unstable. When they finally went to war, they were shaped by that before-war feeling. That's the key, the psychological state before the big storm hits. Now, here's the interesting part. Gen Z's collective psychology, the way they think and feel as a generation, looks a lot like that before the war feeling of the Greatest Generation. But for Gen Z, the war isn't just one big battle. It's climate change, extreme politics, online drama that feels like a war of opinions, algorithms that show them the worst, not the balanced. Both generations grew up hearing adults argue loudly about the future, seeing the world change in confusing ways, feeling that they have to somehow fix a mess they didn't create. Example for a 5-year-old, in simple words. Imagine you're 5 years old. You're playing with your toys in your room. Your parents are in the living room, but they are talking in serious, worried voices. You can't hear exactly what they are saying, but you can feel that something is wrong. You keep asking, "Mommy, is everything okay? Is Daddy stressed?" You don't know what this something is, but you know it's big. You feel it like a heavy cloud over your house. Now, imagine you grow up with that cloud every day. You learn to live under it. You even start to think this cloud is normal. That's what happened to the Greatest Generation. And that's what's happening with Gen Z today. Here's the scary part. When generations grow up under this kind of hidden pressure, history has a habit of repeating itself. Not exactly the same way, but in the same pattern. Back in the 1930s, people felt angry, scared, confused, and they were looking for someone to blame. That's how dangerous leaders could rise. People wanted someone to promise safety in a scary world. They didn't fully understand the long-term cost of that choice. Now fast forward to today. Gen Z is feeling anxious about the future, seeing the world looking broken, watching online fights that turn people into enemies, and sometimes looking for quick answers instead of slow wisdom. Example, simple. Imagine you're in a playground. Someone keeps taking your ball. You complain, but no one fixes it. Now you start to feel, nobody ever listens. Maybe I should just grab the ball and keep it for myself. Maybe everyone else is selfish. If many kids feel that way, the playground can become a place of fights and distrust. Instead of teamwork, it becomes war of all against all. That's the risk. If a generation feels so scared, angry, and confused, they can start to repeat the same mistakes, blaming the other side, choosing extreme leaders, and pushing for fast, simple answers to problems that need patience and care. Here's a secret about Gen Z that most adults don't talk about. Gen Z has a superpower. They feel emotions more strongly and more clearly than many older generations did at their age. They can notice when someone is being fake, sense when a friend is about to cry, feel the anxiety in a room, even when no one says anything. This is like having an emotional radar. But here's the problem. No one taught them how to control that radar. So sometimes, they feel flooded. I feel everyone's pain, but I don't know how to stop it. I know the world is unfair, but I don't know what I can do. Simple example for a 5-year-old ear. Imagine you're in a room, and every person is talking in a different language. You can hear all of them at once. You understand a little of each. You feel the sadness, the anger, the happiness. But if you're only 5, it's too much noise. You don't know who to listen to first. Who's safe? Who just wants to argue? You might just want to cover your ears. That's what it's like to be Gen Z today. Their radar is strong, but the world doesn't give them an off button. This is dangerous when they start believing that the world is always sad, or that everyone is against them, or that kindness is a weakness. If that happens, they can accidentally repeat an old pattern. Felt hurt, pushed empathy away, let anger define the world. And that's how history repeats itself. Here's a big difference between Gen Z and the before-the-war generation. Back then, kids mostly heard one version of the news, from one source, and didn't talk to kids from other countries. They felt the storm, but they felt it alone. Gen Z, on the other hand, is connected globally, able to talk to someone in India, Kenya, or Brazil in seconds, and able to see how other people are feeling when they are scared or hopeful. This is a new kind of strength. They can compare notes, swap solutions, and realize that they're not the only ones feeling this way. Simple example for a 5-year-old ear. Imagine you're scared of the dark. If you're alone in your room, it feels like the whole world is scary. But now, imagine your phone rings, and a friend says, "Hey, I'm scared of the dark too, but we can turn on the lamp together." That small connection makes the dark feel smaller. Gen Z has this kind of connection all the time. But the danger is, they can forget to use it in a healthy way. If they only use connection to argue, compare, or judge, then the connection becomes a weapon. If they use it to share feelings, collaborate, support each other, then the connection becomes a shield. That choice is key, because that's how history can either repeat itself, or finally change. Imagine a big, old mirror. On one side, you see kids from the 1930s, worried, tired, listening to the radio. On the other side, you see Gen Z kids, scrolling, worrying, watching the news. If you look very closely, you can see that both sides are mirroring each other. They're not the same, but they are shaped by the same kind of pressure. This is what we call a mirror moment in history. It's when the psychology of 2 generations look so similar, that it feels like the past is staring back at us. Simple example for a 5-year-old ear. Imagine you're learning to walk. You fall. You cry. Then you try again. You fall again. You cry again. If no one shows you a new way to fall, like rolling instead of hitting your head, you'll keep having the same kind of pain. But if someone teaches you, "Hey, when you fall, try to roll to the side," then you still fall. But the outcome is different. Gen Z is like that. They are falling into the same emotional patterns that other generations did. Fear, anger, blame, division. But if adults, teachers, parents, and even Gen Z themselves can say, "Wait, history is trying to repeat itself. Let's roll instead of crash," then they can break the cycle. So what can Gen Z actually do to break this pattern? Here are 4 simple tools. Like a small toolkit for the mind. Pause before reacting. When you feel very angry or very afraid, ask yourself, is this me, or is this the cloud talking? Give yourself 5 seconds to breathe. That tiny pause can change everything. Talk, don't just scroll. Don't only talk to the algorithm. Talk to real people. A friend, a teacher, a parent, a therapist. When you speak your fear out loud, it becomes smaller and more real. Instead of a giant, blurry monster. Ask questions, not only accusations. When someone upsets you, instead of saying, "You're wrong," try, "Why do you feel that way? What are you afraid of?" This question can disarm an enemy, and sometimes turn them into a partner. Create meaning, not just anger. Use your energy to build something. A project, a story, a community, a small act of kindness. When you create, you remind yourself, "I'm not just a victim of history. I'm a writer of it." These 4 tools are like emotional seatbelts. They don't stop the storm, but they help you survive it without repeating the same crash. Now, let's talk to the adults watching. Parents, teachers, bosses, mentors. The most important thing you can do is not fix, but witness. Instead of saying, "You're overthinking," just be positive. "You'll get over it." Try saying, "I see this feels heavy for you. That would scare me too. How can I help you feel a little safer?" You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to be there. Also, adults can slow down their own anger, be honest about their own fears, and show that it's okay to feel broken sometimes, as long as you keep trying to heal. If adults and Gen Z can sit under the same heavy cloud, but talk about it calmly, then that cloud loses some of its power. It becomes shared, not dangerous. Here's a subtle, deep truth that only a few experts talk about. The real risk for Gen Z isn't just repeating a physical war. It's repeating a spiritual one. A war where people feel empty inside. They stop believing in kindness. They stop trusting each other. And they start thinking that the world is only for survival, not for love. That's the quiet kind of history that has repeated itself many times. It's not always bombs or tanks. Sometimes it's long-term numbness. But the opposite is possible too. It's what Gen Z can create if they choose. A world where people feel deeply, but also care deeply, and where connection is a bridge, not a battlefield. Let's end with a story. Imagine a car driving on a dark road at night. The road is bumpy. The radio is loud with scary news. The driver is exhausted. The car is about to hit a wall. But at the last second, the driver sees the crack in the road, remembers the advice. Slow down. Breathe. Turn the wheel gently. They do it. And instead of crashing, the car turns into a new path. The sky slowly turns from black to blue. That driver is Gen Z. That crack is the mirror with the past. That wheel is the choice they get every day. They can keep speeding toward the same pattern. Or slow down, look at the mirror, and say, history doesn't have to repeat itself. Let's drive differently this time. So if you're Gen Z, remember, you're not weak for feeling this heavy. You're strong for still showing up. If you're an adult, remember, your job isn't to erase their fear. It's to hold it with them. If you found this video useful, like it, share it, and comment what you felt. Are you Gen Z and seeing this for the first time? Are you older and realizing you never understood this feeling? Either way, let's keep this conversation alive. Because when a generation understands why it feels the way it does, it can finally choose a new story instead of repeating the old one. Stay curious, stay kind, and we'll see you in the next one.